of Wednesday, April 8th, 2026 at 7:02 p.m. First up is roll call. May we please have roll call?
Yes, thank you. Director Page.
Present.
Barbadillo. Showalter.
Here.
Martinez Beltran. Tyson.
Here.
Board Chair Larry Klein.
Here.
Vice
Here.
Chair Meadows.
Here.
Director Rennie.
Here.
Makachek.
Here.
Hines.
Present.
And joining us remotely, alternate director Tom Klein.
Here. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a quorum present. We are missing Director Wong and Director Lee, but we do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much. And I just wanted to welcome our new primary director from Campbell, Terry Hines. He serves Campbell District 1 council member and serves on several conservation related committees, including the Silicon Valley Water District County Water, West Valley Solid Waste Authority, JPA, and of course the West Valley Stormwater Authority. Terry, thank you for being here. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
It's very much a pleasure to be able to join and be here. Just my 15-second elevator pitch. I'm born in Detroit, grew up in Chicago, got a master's degree at Nebraska in forestry, fisheries, and wildlife biology. Minor in computer science. That's what I followed as a career. Got recruited by HP, moved out here with my family, and now I'm on the Campbell City Council and very excited to be able to participate in the Silicon Valley Clean Energy and the programs that we have here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much and welcome. Next up is public comment on matters not on our agenda. Is there anyone in the room or remote wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none. We'll move on to our consent calendar. I'll open up public comment on our consent calendar items. Is there anyone in the room or remote wishing to speak on consent? Seeing none. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Thank you. Second by Martinez Beltran. Thank you. Can you please conduct the roll call vote?
Yes, Director Page.
Aye.
Alternate Director Klein.
Aye.
Yes.
Oh, wait,
Thank you. Barbadillo.
Klein, the other Klein. Thank you.
Director Rennie.
Aye.
Tyson.
Yes.
Hines.
Aye.
Vice Chair Meadows.
Aye.
Showalter.
Aye.
Martinez Beltran.
Aye.
Chair Klein.
Aye.
Director Makachek.
Aye.
Thank you. That carries unanimously.
Thank you. And just for the record, please note that item 1E was updated. The title for 1E was updated with the agenda released to for the amount not to exceed $460,000, just for the record. Thank you. Next up, we will move to our regular calendar and our first item, our CEO report. Monica?
Hey, good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and Directors. So I have a brief CEO report, just a few items to highlight, starting with the progress on our new headquarters. For the record, we've been reporting to the Executive Committee on progress in more detail, but I wanted to share with you some highlights. First of all, construction is way underway, and if you have a chance to stop by and visit, everything has been framed on the inside, and so they're making really fast progress. So up until a couple of weeks ago, the project was actually ahead of schedule, but now we're kind of a little bit on schedule now because of some delays related to wiring of the project. But we're still scheduled to be on track and being able to move in mid-July. And we're hoping to have our first board meeting in September once we've tested everything and make sure the AV system is working properly. So that's that. Another update, and these updates also exist in the CEO report, by the way. But I also wanted to bring to your attention a procurement order that was issued by the California Public Utility Commission. As a reminder, the CPUC, or the California Public Utility Commission, is the agency that regulates many load-serving entities in California, including Silicon Valley Clean Energy. So on February 26, 2026, they voted out a decision requiring an additional 6,000 megawatts of net qualifying capacity to be procured by all LSCs that are under the CPUC's jurisdiction. This order requires 2,000 megawatts of new capacity to be online by June 1st of the years 2030 through 2032. Each LSC, including SVCE, must meet 25% of our obligations using clean, firm resources such as geothermal and or long-duration energy storage. So our total obligation resulting from this new procurement order is 135 megawatts of new clean capacity, or about 45 megawatts per year during that 2030 to 2032 timeframe. Just a few other things to note. We reported to the board in February that the proposed decision language included a cap on battery storage procurement. This was removed in the final decision, so they actually listened to our comments in the proceeding. So that's good news for us. And then also that the load serving entities do not have final effective load carrying capacity number. So that's the number that they use to tell us how much of a megawatt we can count towards our obligation. But we expect to have that before relatively soon, by the end of the year, by July 2026. So this represents a fairly large procurement order for us. Unfortunately for us, we're already kind of in the process of buying this. And if you recall, for many of the board members here that have been here for a while, this is the third procurement order that we received from the California Public Utility Commission. And we're making very good progress on the last one, which we call the midterm reliability procurement order, but we still have a little bit to purchase. So with that, that's kind of the big regulatory update that we've been waiting for. And now I'm going to hand it over to our Deputy Director of Marketing and Communications, Pam Leonard, to share with you some Earth Day event highlights and other things happening in our communities.
Good evening, directors. Pamela Leonard. Happy Earth Month. We are officially in the thick of it. It is our favorite time of year. And we've had one event so far in Cupertino last weekend that was very well attended. Most customers continue to just have general questions about our service, who we are, what we can do for them. But we have 7 more events to go, including Sunnyvale this weekend with the Dream Home. And there's on your dais, your seats, is a schedule of some of these upcoming events. And so I think the main things is that our team has been prepared to talk about some recent hot topics, such as the base services charge on customer bills, should they ask us questions about that, and of course promote our rebates and some upcoming changes to the rebate amounts, and promote things such as our student scholarship competition, which is open and closes towards the end of the month. And if you have any interest in joining us at our booth, we always welcome you in your communities when we're there to talk about your role on our board and the offers and services we have available to your community members. So if you would like to join us, just let us know.
Okay, thank you, Pam. So next I'm going to invite our Director of Government and Legislative Affairs, Benna Chang, to give you an update on what's happening with Diablo Canyon and the extension of that nuclear facility.
Great. Thank you, Monica. Benna Chang, Director of Government and Legislative Affairs. So as you might remember, the board took a position a few months ago to add to our legislative policy platform support for an extension of the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant, subject to a couple of affordability provisions. So just wanted to give the board a quick update on the latest things that have been happening with the Diablo Canyon plant. As you might have heard, last Thursday, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission formally approved relicensing of that plant for another 20 years to 2045. However, even with that formal relicensing, the state legislation is going to retire the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant at 2029 for Unit 1 and 2030 for Unit 2, barring any additional legislative action. So on that front, there still has not been any legislation released in print about an extension of Diablo. We know that that is an ongoing conversation of the legislature right now. SVCE recently wrote a letter that articulated the board's affordability principles, and we're circulating that amongst key stakeholders and legislators currently. With that, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from any of the directors? No? Thank you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I missed a tour of Diablo Canyon, and I'm wondering, is PG&E still wanting to have people attend? People did tour the site. And I heard so many good things about the tour. It's just I was away and I missed it.
No, I believe so, and we'll take a note of your interest.
Thank you.
Yeah, Terry Hines, I'd be interested in joining that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll work with Cal CCA as well, because I know that they're trying to coordinate with other CCAs to get some elected officials out there. I know PG&E is very interested in having as many people as possible see their facility. Oh, and Sally as well. Okay. We'll get an email out as soon as we get some dates and et cetera. Okay, well, the only other thing maybe is for SVCE, myself and our staff to welcome Director Terry Hines to our board. Happy to have you. We met this morning and lots of great questions. We're off to a good start. So hopefully he enjoys his role here.
Absolutely, very good review, and thank you very much by you and your team. So thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, well, that concludes my CEO report unless there's any other questions.
Any questions from any of the directors?
All right, thank you.
I'll open up public comment. Is there any member of the public in the room or remote wishing to speak on this item? None? Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to our next item, item 3, integrated decarbonization roadmap, barriers and targets. Staff speaking.
Yeah, so we have Zoe Elizabeth speaking. She's actually remote, but we also have Justin Segunes, who's going to be here to support her as well.
Thank you. It's like I didn't see Zoe in the room. Okay.
All right. Good evening. Thrilled to be with you all. Sad it's virtual, but very happy to be with you. This is a discussion item. So next slide, please. Okay. I'm going to go through 3 topics that are all meant to feed into the strategic initiative of the decarbonization roadmap. So we're going to review a set of existing program budget projections. And then we're going to talk about the long-term electrification targets and how our region is currently progressing towards those targets. And then we'll go through kind of a discussion on prioritization, strategy, how we could look forward to the future. And then I will look forward to your questions. Next slide. So first, a reminder for those who have been with us for a while, and then new information for those that are newly with us. In addition to all of our regular work at SVCE, we're always very busy. This year, we are working on 2 interdependent strategic frameworks. The financial levers, which Justin has been discussing with the executive committee and the board over the last several meetings, and the decarbonization roadmap, which we're talking about this evening. Again, I think just really want to note that these 2 pieces, one, we're working very closely together hand in hand, but the information that Justin is presenting on our budget forecasts can help inform how you think about what I'm presenting this evening and going forward, how we think about our impacts and our electrification. And vice versa, the information that I'm giving you this evening can also help to feed into the direction that you provide to Justin and at the financial leverage discussion in June. In turn, that direction that you provide in June will inform the recommendations that we bring back in August on the decarbonization roadmap. Just a reminder of how these conversations flow together. Next slide. Okay. So this is a high-level picture of our current program budget forecast. So I'll make a note. You'll see that it starts off this year at that line coming down is our program reserves. The bars on the bottom are our estimated annual program spend. And the reason that reserve is high is that over the last several years of our existence, the last 7 years or so, we've been building up that program reserve, building up our capacity to then plan and spend down and make a real impact. Over the next 5 years, that reserve budget comes down. And currently we're projecting that starting in 2030, that would lead to a slower amount of spending, about $11 million a year. So a little less than half of what we currently are projected to spend in the next 5 years. And then by 2035, again, assuming nothing changes, which we never assume because things always change, we would be at a place where we would have spent down that program reserves, and we would then be running the programs based on the annual 2% revenue allocation, which is about $6 billion a year. So one takeaway from this slide is even outside of the financial levers conversation, planning for changing budget conditions is just a part of the status quo of what we do at SVCE and that what we would be doing in this point anyway. As you'll see later on, one of the questions that comes up with the current financial levers is, do we make some changes to that budget earlier? And then what would the impact be on our programs and electrification? Next slide. So then the other piece of this is, how is that money spent across the holistic set of programs that we have? And here, I think the key takeaway is that the majority, almost 2/3 of our funds go to direct financial support for rebates and incentives. So that's things like our home rebates program for heat pump water heaters, heat pump HVAC, pre-wiring, things like that. We also have a significant portion that goes to community reinvestment in grants, as well as things like affordable housing upgrades and ecosystem improvements. So all of the market transformation work that we do to drive down the costs of electrification and help move the market overall. And so that kind of holistic set of direct financial support, community investment, and ecosystem is how we've been directed and moving so far. Next slide, please. Okay, so that's where our budget is. The next question that comes up is, how are we doing? How are we progressing? And how do we see ourselves using these funds to get towards the bold targets of electrification? And I'm going to go through a few slides to explain what we currently see. Next slide. Okay, so for some of you, this will be a familiar bar chart. Right? The high level takeaway here is that hitting climate targets, which is more or less statewide climate neutrality by 2045, is what has been set forward as the state target. For SVCE, that really means helping our region to electrify about 1 million machines. 1 million, that's things like HVAC systems, water heaters, gas cars and trucks, all the machine and equipment within to heat commercial buildings. All adds up to about 1 million machines over the next 20 years or so. Next slide. So that's a big, bold target. 1 million machines is a lot. 20 years is both a long time and a short time. But like any goal, you really need to move things into relatively smaller chunks. And so I'm going to go through 3 examples of heat pump water heaters, and then heat pump HVAC, and then electric vehicles to give a sense of how our region is currently progressing towards these targets and the role that SVCE plays. So here you see heat pump water heaters, and down at the bottom of that chart, you see a bunch of different things that add up. All of these different wedges add up to really move the market towards adoption. And the takeaway here is, one, based on our kind of best available market studies and forecast and program data, it is unlikely on the current trajectory, without additional innovation and technology improvements, that our region would hit those targets. Heat pump water heaters are still expensive and face a lot of just kind of innate hurdles. Another takeaway is that SVCE's role here, both in supporting local policy and helping to support modernized permitting, and really critically our rebates, is a really important driving force in moving our region forward. And then the other piece, that kind of mid-level blue color there, are air district targets that are air district rules that are set to go into effect next year. And you can see they are the biggest one singular piece of this wedge that we think will drive the most adoption towards those targets. Next slide. Okay, a more positive story is heat pump HVAC. So we see, just looking at that given market conditions that consumer demand is stronger for HVAC. Put simply, it makes more economic sense to install a heat pump HVAC system in someone's home because you get a 2-for-1. You can heat and cool. As we see more and more people moving to install AC, that's also driving more demand for heat pump HVAC systems. And so we actually see heat pump HVAC hitting targets and the ability for SVCE to support phase out even sooner. I'll also note here that the member agency codes and state building codes also play a really key role alongside the air district to support that most cost-effective market transformation. Next slide. Okay, EVs. And this is an interesting one because we've had so many changes in policy at the federal level over the last year that what we right now see is a lot of uncertainty. If I was going to bet, I would say in several years that this chart will likely look very different. I have no doubt that the EV market will get stronger and will likely evolve, that there will be new market entrants. And we'll see a growing uptick, but we did our analysis based on what is in place right now. And what we see is that there's a lot of uncertainty. As car manufacturers are pulling back, we don't quite know what the buying trends will look like and if they will stay as strong as they have been. The other piece that's important to note is that SVCE's role here is important. We play a really key role in supporting EV infrastructure, particularly at multifamily properties and other places where that infrastructure is unlikely to go, and thus suppress EV adoption and also the equitable access to EVs. But we are less influential, right, on overall EV adoption. We just have less of a strong influence there. Next slide. Okay, so we got a sense of where we are today and what we see looking ahead. Then the next set of questions is, given changing conditions, potential changing budget conditions, how should SVCE prioritize our investments over the coming years? Are there ways that we should think about reprioritizing past dollars? How do we really plan for uncertainty? So I'm going to go into how we're thinking about this, and this will be a few slides. Go ahead, Andrea, next slide. Okay. So in addition to the analysis that we've been doing and looking at how our programs are running and understanding market conditions, we've been gathering input first from the board at a special board of directors session in December. And there, the slide aims to capture a really robust session that we had. We heard that there is a desire to be both pragmatic and focused on efforts that lead to cost-effective results, while also maintaining an innovative spirit that creates creative solutions. A real desire to focus on rapid results when there was a trade-off between kind of slower and stickier things. We heard clearly there was a desire to move the market as quickly as we can to bring real tangible results. And again, this is a discussion that continues, but that was our initial feedback we heard in December. Next slide. Okay. And then we held 3 additional workshops, one with a set of community leaders, another with member agency staff from most of our 13 member jurisdictions, and with staff. And I'll go into, there was a lot of differences of opinions, but there were some key areas that all of these groups of over 50 people coalesced around. One, strong coherence that we should put the majority of funds should continue to go towards direct financial support in the terms of incentives and rebates that drive electrification. Also, strong support for maintaining local policy support and ecosystem improvements, as that really has an unlocking ability to kind of unlock the market and drive down costs and speed up adoption even more. And then there was less clarity on kind of innovation, percent of incentives focused on low income versus market rate customers. We had a lot of very interesting conversations, but there was general agreement that there was more analysis that was needed, more detailed discussions needed to really understand how SVC's role in these areas should be most focused. And we'll describe that in the next slide. Okay, so to give you kind of a flavor for some of the conversation that had in the room, these were some of the key tensions and strategic trade-offs that came up. We heard some folks say, hey, incentives should really go to those who are ready to electrify. Market incentives that are open to everyone. Let's get them out there. Let's get machines in people's homes as quickly as we can. That's going to drive down costs. We heard others say, hey, some folks are already going to electrify. Let's instead really focus our funding on resources to those who need the most help. We heard folks say, some people say innovation is risky. That's already incentivized. There's many free market players doing that. SVCE doesn't need to have a role. Whereas we heard others say, we are only going to electrify when real solutions exist that can drive down costs. SVCE is in a unique position and should use its mission to support new and better solutions. So you can see strong opinions that are all valid, but don't necessarily align and bring more questions for us to delve into in the future coming weeks. Next slide. The other place where within the workshops there was strong discussion is where, while as everyone across the board agreed that most funding should go towards direct rebates and incentives, there was differences in the perspectives on the nuances of those incentives. I spoke of some of this in the previous slide, but this gets a little bit more into that detail of need-based incentives versus incentives that are open and available to everyone, incentives where it's very difficult to decarbonize versus putting more money in places where homes and solutions are really ready to go now, and maybe that money can go farther. So those are the types of conversations that we had. Next slide. So SVCE and our staff, we've took all of that information, the analysis, and we've put it in to an example set of scenarios that I'm going to show you in just a moment. But the first piece, we hope always want to say this, is that it's important to know SVCE cannot do it all. Our role is not to electrify all 1 million machines, but rather think about how we can invest our money in the way that's the most catalytic and drives the most change. But we are one part of the ecosystem. Next slide. The other disclosure notice here that I think is always important is that there's high uncertainty, both in what the market will look like and what policy will look like, and what the future budget conditions will be. And so in all of the example scenario that we are going to show in a moment, as well as the strategic recommendations and recommended scenarios that we will develop as part of the roadmap, they are meant to be adaptable. Because the more adaptable they can be, the more certain we can be that we will have a robust impact no matter what the future brings. And that means we're having some portfolio that is balanced and allows us to pivot, adapt, expand, and contract as conditions change. Next slide. Okay, so all of that information leading into these scenarios, I'm just going to give this piece of background. The way that we started here was with, in addition to our business as usual, we imagined a future of 3 potential different budget scenarios. One, you can call it the positive unexpected results scenario, where there was an unexpected revenue influx, which would maintain a high spending levels. A medium budget scenario where the budget decreases by about half starting in 2027. And then a low budget scenario where today's budget decreases by about 75% starting in 2027. Next slide. And this is just a depiction of what that chart would look like. The gray, again, shows the stepped down approach, which is our current business as usual program forecast. It's the program budget where we spend more in these early years to help really catalyze market adoption. And then we slowly pull back as the market matures. And these three other scenarios. Next slide. And so what this slide shows is an example of how SVCE under all these different conditions could aim to maintain that focus that we have heard from the board and from stakeholders on delivering most of our funds through direct financial support, as well as continuing to catalyze electrification through ecosystem improvements, and as much as possible, funding community investments. One of the things that you will note on this slide is certain program areas can expand and contract more easily. In community investments, when we go into low budget scenarios, that's just one where when you have very limited funding, doing small grant programs doesn't make as much sense. So it's the one area where we see falling off in the low budget scenario. The other thing that I will note here is that for this first run at a scenario, we looked at mainly open incentives. So in all the high budget, medium budget, and low budget, most of that funding goes towards market rate incentives. Future analysis will look at kind of teasing that out more to see how things change, but we wanted to just give an example to start the conversation. Next slide. Okay, so then this comes back to, you saw those targets at the start of the presentation. You saw where things were going for each of the different key machine types. And what this slide shows is the progress towards those targets under different budget conditions. And the key takeaways, probably not surprisingly, is that heat pump HVAC hits targets under all different scenarios except for the low investment scenario. Heat pump water heaters, which require the most investment and have the just need the most support overall. We only were able to see them hitting those targets in the high scenarios. And given today's circumstances, EVs did not hit the target. So that's the high level sense of the different piece here. But the other thing I want to just zoom in on is that peach bar is the impact, our best guess at how far we would get towards target without SVCE. So you can see that under each of these scenarios, SVCE makes a real difference. We can find a way under all budget conditions to ensure that we deliver real tangible benefits to our community and support our mission. And of course, with a higher budget scenario, it means more electrification, it means more community benefit, but we have the ability to ebb and flow, flex, and still deliver on our mission despite changing conditions. Next slide, Andrea. Okay, this is the last slide I have before I open up to conversations. And it's just a reminder that this is a discussion item. We will continue gathering analysis, expert stakeholder feedback, report back to the EC in June, and then come back to this board in August with a set of strategic recommendations and a longer study session. Next slide, Andrea. Okay. So I have here a set of questions, but these are really just meant as an opening. And I look forward to I'll hand it back to the chair and take any questions that you all have.
Thank you, Zoe. Are there any questions from the directors or comments as we're going through this side? Director Tyson?
We didn't talk at all about the
about the induction heating for stoves, and I understand why. It's in terms of a carbon impact, it's always been much smaller than these others. But I just wonder if we get to the point where we say, what's the overall environmental impact? As I read more and more about the impact of indoor air quality from the use of gas in the kitchen environment, do we get to a point where we might say, you know, a pound of carbon saved from a water heater is got the same impact as saving, what would that be, a smaller quantity from a stovetop? And I wonder if we might get to where it's not just a carbon thing, but an air quality thing, especially because you did reference the Bay Area Air Quality Management District regulations being a strong driver. So just some thought, a question for you there.
Fantastic question. So I will say that our roadmap does absolutely include induction cooking in all of the other machines. We just wanted to give 3 examples to keep it hopefully somewhat manageable this evening. So answer is yes, we will include induction cooking. And then the other piece of your question I hear is there are other kind of co-benefits to electrification in different machines. And we can think about how to incorporate and explain and talk about and weigh those co-benefits as part of this process.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Meadows, go ahead.
Thank you very much. So on the sort of the final bar chart before the timeline, you had a counterfactual bar, sort of peach colored, Zoe. So I was wondering, is that purely an estimate based on the lack of rebates or incentives driving a lesser amount, or is there more to it? Is there some level of education that is also not driving that peach bar up? Or is it just simply the mathematical incentives and rebates? Justin is nodding, if that helps you, Zoe.
Yeah, I'd say that it is predominantly that the equipment is not always cost effective. So without additional financial support, you will not see as much market adoption. How we develop that peach bar is looking at existing forecasts and market studies from others, as well as from our program data, to get a conservative estimate of what we think that adoption would look like. And then the one thing I would add is that in addition to rebates and incentives, the work that happens on to help support permit modernization, to help train contractors, all of that plays a really important role in driving down costs and kind of boosting the market in these early days. They work hand in hand with each other.
Thank you. It's helpful to understand where that comes from. It just wasn't a, lick the finger and apply a 20% reduction. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Director Hines.
Yeah, just maybe more of a preconceived notion that I had coming in, but it'd be good to understand on a unit by unit basis what has the better potential for savings on a carbon decarbonization, like a air conditioner, and then a heater, then an EV. And just being able to understand what the impact on decarbonization is of being able to do that. It'd be helpful. Thank you.
Fantastic. We will add that in, and I will also just share a shorthand is that HVAC system and a water heating system are each about 1 metric ton. So they're about equivalent, and a car is about 2 metric tons of savings. So you can think about it that way.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's kind of what I would have presumed, but it'd be really good to be able to see that in the presentation. Thank you.
Zoe, can I add just for clarity, that is part of the roadmap, is to develop these metrics, including the cost of abatement for each of these different measures. Is that correct?
That is correct. along with metrics for additional co-benefits.
Thank you. Director Showalter.
Well, a couple of the things I was going to ask you to talk a little bit more about why this graph that we're looking at that sort of looks like a hand with the histograms, why it was different for different for the heat pump and for the HVAC and for the EV. But you've already talked quite a bit about the heat pump and the HVAC. So I wanted to talk here a little bit more about the EV, because it seems like when we've talked before about how to move forward on this, there's several ways we've wanted to move forward. One is with just getting people to buy cars and providing incentives that on the cost of the car. And then the other one is making sure that there's a charging network that's available to people. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about, particularly on the EV, how you think those things balance.
Okay, that's a great question. It's a very hard question. So, and you asked me what I think. So I'm just going to caveat, I'm going to share what I think. Based on everything that I have read and focused on this issue for a long time, I think that it's still the upfront cost that drives consumer choices when purchasing a car. That upfront cost is a complicated thing because it has to do with financing, it has to do with your experience at the dealership, all sorts of things. But most of the research shows that it's still kind of that upfront cost. So even though, right, the full cost of ownership for an EV today is lower in many circumstances, that upfront cost is still really the barrier. However, the role charging is a key piece of the overall puzzle, not just to getting people to adopt EVs, but making sure that everyone can adopt and drive an EV. Because right now, the majority of EVs are owned by folks that have access to charging at home, because it's just simple. So it's single family residences. But in many of our communities, including Mountain View, right, it's 50% or more of folks are renters. And so unless we develop a network that is accessible and affordable, we will never unlock that additional market potential. That is unfortunately a slow and somewhat tedious process that requires a lot of experimentation.
Yeah, in conversations I've had recently about this, the more I learn about the EV charging system, the more complicated it gets. And it seems like there's, of course, the issues of what level they are. There also seems to be the issue of, is there enough power in a certain building? I understand that at Mountain View City Hall, for instance, we have a lot of EVs in our fleet. When they're all trying to charge, the charge rate, just drops precipitously because we don't have the power to keep it up. That's got to be very frustrating for people. Also, I have heard just horror stories about a lot of, you go to one EV charger to another one in a public place and they're all broken, or many of them are broken. And, what we can do to make sure that these things continue to function on a regular basis. So I guess what I'm getting to is, when I think now about the EVs, I think that it's a whole laundry list of things that are contributing, and we need to consider, what are the ones that we want to include in our work. And rebates, of course, has risen to the top. But when I think about, in my community in particular, where we have more than 60% of the population lives in multifamily housing, that access to EV chargers is really a problem. And even in our public garages, which have EV chargers, they apparently have this power problem as well. So I didn't even know that that was a thing, but apparently apparently it is. So I think that we, as we move forward with this, I guess the innovation side of what we what we want to push forward is, and this is the civil engineer in me talking, is O&M. Operation and maintenance is so important for making things be sustainable. And by that, I mean, they're durable. People keep it up. It's not a pain in the neck to do it. If the system works as it needs to work. So that's something I just want to bring up. This this O&M of the EV charger network, and the power requirements for buildings that have multiple chargers. And where does this all fit?
Thank you, Director. Any other questions or comments? So I had a few comments. First, I appreciate the slide that we can't do it alone, or we can't do it all from an Silicon Valley clean energy standpoint, and wondering how our partnerships, or it's like to meet these goals, and you had basically the high budget, medium budget, low budget goals. In what areas specifically? Is it HVAC? Is it water heater? Is it EVs that our partners conceivably help move that bar upwards? And so, it's like, it looks like from an HVAC standpoint, our investment helps. It's only the low budget scenario where we don't really make that long-term goal. That being said, are there partners out there specifically that move the bar on any of these specific items? And it's like, is it the air district? Is it other entities that really, partnerships conceivably move this faster?
Yeah, great question. So yes, there are places where the partnerships move things faster. Maybe I'll go briefly for each of those. So for heat pump water heaters, we definitely see the air district rules as the driver there. And that's just simply because there is no natural demand for that appliance. And so we need to boost demand to get to get positive market feedback, to bring supply costs, get contractors on board. And so we see that as the key driver there. There have also been important state funding mechanisms, the tech program being one of them, and of course a slew of nonprofit leaders, such as the Building Decarbonization Coalition that leads the heat pump partnership, that are really important to this overarching ecosystem. The funding on those, I will say, does tend to ebb and flow. So it's important that it's not always consistent. That's one of the biggest challenges to the market, is actually the inconsistency. And I'd say on the heat pump HVAC, it's probably similar, but I'd say there that the key partners are also state building codes and our local building codes. So just again, the work that folks did here on many of our member agencies on heat pump to HVAC codes and pre-wiring codes play a really important role in moving that adoption forward. And there's also tech funding. On both appliances and EVs, we had great partnerships and tax rebates until very recently, which again is one of these things where these things can change over time. However, we're still probably reaping some of the benefits of the IRA tax credits, and that there was a lot of market information and market spurring that happened in 2025 as people kind of heard and understood the benefits of heat pumps. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
No, I think that does. And this is always the question of where we spend our dollars, and where, for these items are in our long-term goals, where our dollars basically either through partnerships have more power, or are we the lone entity that's pushing the needle in certain areas? And I think having the board look at that, because it's like, oh, we're the only ones that are really helping us meet the long-term goals in certain areas. But, it's can we leverage other dollars and partnerships? I think that's important. And then especially as we look at the different budget scenarios, things are changing rapidly. It's like, especially you look at where we were 4 months ago, and it's a whole different outlook from the financials for this year. And so you have that, when we talk about the EV uptake conceivably is dropping off in certain communities. If the gas prices stay where they are now, I think a lot of people all of a sudden like, oh, maybe an EV or an electric bike or something all of a sudden becomes an option where standard practice, you know, is changes depending upon what the economic factors are. So I do think that from this organization, as we look forward in the year, it'll be interesting to see that either the high budget, the medium budget, the low budget, definitely it's has different effects on how we move the needle on our long-term goals. But I do think this is what the board is here for, and I applaud you for kind of laying out the next steps as far as getting getting input from the stakeholders and continuing these discussions at a board level, trying to figure out how best to meet our mission. So thank you for that. And I think it's changing people's mindset, whether or not it's water heaters, HVAC, and especially as it gets hotter, EVs, induction cooking. It's trying to do a little bit of all these things, and depending upon what the state of the market is, what the state of people's concepts are, conceivably they're more amenable to an uptake as far as that's concerned. So looking forward to seeing that, and thinking our programs really do make a difference. Yes, Director Martinez Beltran.
Thank you, Chair. You brought up a great point about, talking about electric bikes and EVs and looking at the high budget scenario, low budget scenario. And I wonder, I haven't seen anything yet, but have we thought about leveraging the situation that we're in now and talking about gas prices and talking about EVs and, maybe leveling up a little bit more? I mean, there's a crisis now, and I think it's a great push to kind of get people thinking financially and get them over that. And maybe we can be that synergy that does it. And so I would love to see some marketing on that where we can really try and make a difference. So thank you.
Thank you. Director Makachek.
Couple of kind of questions, comments. We've been having a very residential focused, I think, conversation. And I believe that we've got quite a bit of our demand is on the C&I side. And I'm just wondering, on the dollars spent in the various scenarios, it would be interesting to me to see kind of what the cost is for residential and the commercial and industrial, and where the potential benefits are. So that's kind of a question, comment, and then my other observation / question is, and I'll make the statement first. We are part of Cal CCA, and it strikes me that we really don't compete with other CCAs, but is some of the great work that we do, are we able to leverage that and, for lack of a better term, license the IP or the thinking, royalty free to our other CCAs? Because I think we're all about reducing the decarbonizing throughout the state of California. So kind of a observation, comment, question, or a couple of them for you.
Okay. Yeah, great questions. I will tease out the first one on residential versus CNI. I was hoping somebody would ask this, so thank you. So I do want to be clear. Our scenarios, we do talk the most about residential because candidly, residential is the farthest along in the market right now. The equipment is closest to cost parity, and that's where there's the most interest. But the forecast that you show, that those million machines, we are thinking across the full spectrum of buildings. And in future scenarios, future conversations, we will tease that out in more granular detail. I will say right now, a smaller portion of our budget goes to CNI, mostly because there's such early adoption in that stage. There's not as much uptake and it's a longer lead time. Also, the equipment turnover is slower. I imagine it will be 5 years or so when that begins to change. But we're kind of with CNI the way that residential was 5 years ago. Again, that will start to change. And then on CCA learnings, the answer is absolutely yes. In two fronts, I think we share a lot of what we have learned. I think other CCAs get to benefit and grow off of that, and vice versa. We take a lot from learnings from other CCAs and adopt and don't do the mistakes that they made. But also we actually have a working group of the 5 Bay Area CCAs. We've been working together for the last 2 years and preparing for the Air District rules to say even more specifically, where can we become more than the sum of our parts and actually develop consistent programs. So contractors across the Bay Area are getting the same kind of messages and have access to the same kinds of programs. And I think that one makes our dollars go farther, but as you alluded to, also helps us to really transform move towards kind of that statewide goal and impact beyond our borders.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Hines?
Yeah, just want to comment off of Director Showalter's comment about EV being a year into an EV ownership. It becomes very clear what works and what doesn't work and what you have to rely on and the advantages. I just would encourage when we talk about EVs to put into the perspective of what the reality is, and it's a tremendous gain. But there's a lot of misconceptions out there that once you own an EV, it's very clear what works and what doesn't work. So I just want to encourage that to be included in talking about EVs.
Thank you. I see no other comments from directors. I'll go ahead and open up public comment on this matter. Is there any member of the public in person or remote wishing to speak on this item?
None in person, Chair, but we do have someone remote.
Okay.
Bruce Carney, whenever you are ready.
Thank you. For the benefit of Director Hines and Director Klein, let me introduce myself. I'm Bruce Carney. I am a Mountain View resident, the chair of Carbon Free Mountain View, and have been engaged with Silicon Valley since before it was founded 11 years ago. I'm a frequent attendee at these board meetings. I want to talk first about EVs and EV charging. As was pointed out, converting an auto from gasoline to electric can save 2 metric tons of CO2 a year compared to 1 metric ton for heat pump water heater, 1 metric ton for heat pump HVAC. So automobiles are the #1 source of emissions in most of our communities. And let's talk a little bit about charging an EV. So I've owned an EV for 8.5 years. It charges from a 120 volt outlet and it draws about 1.5 kilowatts when it charges. When I go to the downtown Mountain View garage at level 2 charger, I draw 60 kilowatts. My 8-year-old Bolt can't take more than 50 kilowatts at a time, and it's hard to find a charger that can deliver that much. But new EVs from China are charging at the rate of 300 kilowatts or 1,000 kilowatts. So these are not levels of energy that will ever be provided at a home or an apartment or even most businesses. It will only be provided at a business whose job it is to quickly recharge EVs. And I've got to suspect that over the next few years, most EVs will be able to charge at these very high rates of 300 to 1,000 kilowatts, which means that investments in charging at residences, whether they be single family or multifamily, will not, well, I guess, what do we call that? We call them it's not lost investments, but sorry, I can't find the right term, but they're not the way the world is going. The world is going toward charging your EV the same way you fuel your gasoline car. You go to an electron station and you charge it up. And then you move on. You grab your cup of coffee, you charge your car, and off you go. I would really love to see Silicon Valley Clean Energy helping to make this transition happen. I found the slide 4 to be very scary. I can't conceive that SVCE 5 years from now will be investing significantly less in programs than it already is. So I hope the board will second that vision of the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
No additional comments, Chair.
Okay, I'll go ahead and close public comment. Thank you very much for the presentation and looking forward to the ongoing discussions that we're having as far as roadmap and hearing from the stakeholders. Thank you. I will move on to our next item. Item 4, Program Impact Summary, January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2025. Nupur Hiramath, member of our decarbonization programs, to speak. Welcome.
Good evening, board. There we go. My name is Nupur Hiramath. I'm excited to present our annual programs impact summary to you for calendar year 2025. We've been trying to bring these annual summaries to you earlier in the year. We are a little later this year, but I just wanted you to keep in mind that most of the numbers I'm sharing are for last year. So I'll cover quickly what our programs do and why, what we've accomplished and learned, as well as share some customer stories and where we're going next. When you think of the typical SVCE customer, we often run into folks who are not aware of electrification. They may be only minimally interested in it. They're often worried about how they would go about electrification, how much it would cost. And there's a ton of different options out there for how to electrify. So they're overwhelmed and don't always know where to start. But most customers need a quick, affordable, convenient solution. And at the end of the day, all customers want to enjoy their heating or cooling or their hot water. So that's where programs come in. We are really trying to design programs that can help our customers electrify quickly, easily, and cost effectively, understanding that they have to go about their daily lives. And at SVCE, we have a program almost for everyone. We have programs for residents, businesses, both large and small, our member agencies, as well as nonprofits. Zoe covered this in detail, so I won't jump into it, but essentially our programs span these 5 categories shown on this slide. And they're really trying to address key barriers to electrification, whether they're financial, technical knowledge, or awareness. We have about 30 active programs to date and about $138 million committed to those programs. 44 million of that has been expended and about 77 million is available to customers in programs that are currently active. 28 million of that is dedicated to income qualified customers. So I wanted to give you a quick sample of some of our program budgets. Our program spending and budgeting really varies by the type of program, how many customers we're trying to serve, and also the infrastructure we're trying to update. So the programs highlighted in yellow here are typically some of our high volume programs, which means a customer may come in, be in that program for anywhere between 1 and 4 months, like if they're swapping out just a home water heater. And then they're done with that program. And so that's a high volume program. There's a lot of turnaround. And we tend to spend our budget down on those programs a lot faster. But we have other programs, as Zoe alluded to, our business programs. Those are much more complicated electrification projects and so have slower uptake. So we've spent a lot less. Similarly, we have direct install programs where we hire contractors and they go in and make upgrades for customers. And those are also slower programs. And then programs that have complex technologies like EV charging, which typically takes longer to install, or some of our member agency grants that are really big projects, solar installations, battery installations for your facilities at cities, those are also going to take longer to spend down. I'll share a little bit about some of the metrics that we've achieved. There's an appendix included in this slide deck with a lot more metrics if you're really into those. So you're welcome to look at that. And I'm happy to answer questions offline. But I'm going to highlight 6 of these milestones that we've accomplished this year. First, we had a lot of engagement with our customers through our Go Electric Advisor service, which is a phone, web chat, and email option that customers can reach out and ask our advisors any question about electrification. We also had more than 345,000 visitors come and try to learn about electrification from our online e-hub, which is our customer resource center. And we were able to electrify 2,900 homes partially or fully. That means they either got a heat pump, an induction cooktop, pre-wired their homes, etc., through our rebate program. We've trained more than 370 contractors in the last 5 years. And then on the transportation side, we do have a relatively newer electric vehicle rebate program that allows low-income customers to purchase or lease EVs. We had 300 of those rebates paid out, and then we've installed more than 600 level 1 and level 2 EV chargers in the last 6 years. I'm going to walk through about 4 or 5 of the key learnings that we've had. So while we track all these metrics, we also keep track of kind of customer experience and contractor experience and our own experience administering these programs. One thing we've definitely learned is limited term rebates have a really big impact on electrification. So this reminds me of the toilet paper crisis that we had during the COVID-19 pandemic. When something's in short supply, everybody goes out and gets it. So when the tax rebates were announced to go away, we saw a surge in applications to our home rebate program, more than 80% more applications in 2025 compared to the year before. And then same thing with the EV rebates. We had 50% more claims come in the latter half of the year when the EV tax credit was going away. So we're going to use that learning to our advantage, and we're going to try some seasonal bonuses offered during certain windows in 2026 to see if that accelerates uptake. Next, Zoe went into this in great detail, but we did see a lot more uptake in heat pump HVAC systems in 2025 compared to the previous year. And then we actually had a deceleration in the adoption of heat pump water heaters last year. So we want to continue to support heat pump water heaters, as Zoe mentioned. One way to do that is by increasing the rebate value. And so we are going to try that in 2026 as well. Next, panel optimization is possible when encouraged. And what I mean by panel optimization is the concept that you can actually electrify a single-family home without upgrading your electrical panel. We have been actively involved alongside Peninsula Clean Energy and other organizations in the space trying to do some real world studies of how homes can do this. And with the appropriate load management strategies, we know that 100 amp electrification, or basically electrifying within that 100 amp capacity, is possible. So we, in 2025, started offering our $1,000 panel rebate to customers who would wanted to replace unsafe panels or wanted to upgrade their panel within a maximum capacity of 100 amps. When we did that, we started to notice that fewer and fewer of our upgrades were actually taking us up on that rebate. We don't have conclusive data yet, but that leads us to believe that contractors are finding solutions to electrify within that 100 amp limit. And we want to use more information, more time this year to educate contractors and customers on how to do that. Next, we talked a little bit about innovation in the previous presentation. We are truly leading the way with some of our innovative programs, and I wanted to highlight one of them. It's the Go Electric Advisor program that I mentioned earlier. Customers can call in and literally ask any question about electrification, whether they're trying to replace an appliance now or planning for future electrification. This is a screenshot of our website for the Go Electric Advisor. We launched this in 2023, and since then, this program has been replicated by 3 other CCAs. And 2 of those CCAs really replicated this program from us. So you can see they are using the same program implementer, and they have had similar success to SVCE. So we want to continue to invest in these types of innovative programs, particularly when they provide practical solutions for our community. And then last, I'm going to delve a little deeper into the direct install program. So these are programs where SVCE hires a contractor who can go into a customer's home and make this gas to electric appliance switch for the customer. This is new territory for us. We started running these programs only in 2024 and 2025, so they're still pretty young, but they are high investment programs. They require high involvement from SVCE staff, and they provide a really deep level of customer support. We have 3 of these programs that serve different audiences, and I'm going to focus on the single-family version of this program. One thing to keep in mind is that these direct install programs don't only electrify, so they also provide opportunities for energy efficiency, such as attic insulation, duct sealing, and when possible, we leverage third-party programs for energy efficiency. So we're really trying to keep the customer's whole experience in mind. We're coming in, we're putting in the right equipment, we're making sure their home is energy efficient and comfortable, and we're also trying to lower their long-term operational cost as they pay their energy bills. There are 3 features of these programs that I'm going to highlight. The first is the white glove experience. We really want to make, electrification an easy button for the customer. So what we do in these programs is we handle the project from start to finish. We work with energy advisors who are available to the customers before, during, and after the installation to answer any questions. They can help the customer troubleshoot any issues, and they can also encourage movement towards whole home electrification and panel optimization. Most importantly, the white glove experience, particularly for income qualified customers, is wonderful because we cover these upgrades at no cost for income qualified customers. So there's a couple of stories on this slide. Both are income qualified customers. Wei was a retiree on a fixed income. He really just only wanted a water heater replacement, but when he learned about everything that SVCE can do, he actually went fully electric in his home and removed his gas meter. And then we had another customer who had a broken furnace, and while she was waiting for her heat pump, which unfortunately triggered a service upgrade, winter came along, and so our energy advisor was actually able to go in there and fix her gas furnace temporarily while she was waiting for her heat pump to be installed. Next, we want to have some attractive pricing for our customers. A lot of times when customers are going through this process, they have to get multiple quotes, negotiate with contractors. It's a headache. So what we're trying to do is take that headache out of the customer's thinking process. We have standardized pricing that's available online. And the nice part is all of the rebates that you get them up front when you go through this program. So you're not sitting around waiting for a rebate check to show up in the mail 3 months after you've made your upgrade. We had some good customer experiences here. One customer really wanted SVCE to do all the thinking for them, and they appreciated that. Another customer actually did not use our contractors, but they used our pricing to negotiate a better price from an external contractor outside of our program. So one way or the other, this program is helping our customers. And third, we want to continue to electrify without panel upsizing. So I talked about that a little bit earlier. Really, these upsizing your panel can trigger a service upgrade through PG&E, and that tends to take anywhere between 6 and 18 months, and it can cost up to $10,000 or more in some cases, and that cost does get passed down to the customer. So through this program, we have contractors and energy advisors that interact with the customers, and they're really our ambassadors because they're echoing our philosophy of electrifying with an existing capacity. So they can really help the customer avoid those service upgrades and save time and money. One of our customers was actually told by other contractors that she wouldn't be able to electrify her water heater because they had underground service lines in her neighborhood and would take really long and would be a very complex service upgrade. Working with our contractors, we were actually able to implement some load management strategies, and she got a brand new heat pump water heater, and now she's telling all of her neighbors about the experience that she's had so that they can pursue the same course. So we're using a lot of these learnings and customer stories to continue to iterate and improve our program offerings in the coming year. And with that, as we look ahead, I mentioned that we are going to increase some of our rebates this coming year for water heaters. We're also doing the seasonal $500 bonus in fall and in the spring. We have 4 cities right now that are layering their rebates with us, which is exciting: Mountain View, Milpitas, Sunnyvale, and Los Altos. And we're continuing to iterate on our direct install programs to ensure we have higher efficiency and a better customer experience. Our Go Electric advisor is getting ready to talk to customers more about the air district rules that are coming into play in 2027. And on the transportation side, we're offering some e-bike rebates in the fall for low-income customers, as well as expanding our EV charging rebates for workplaces and public locations. And looking ahead, even further long-term, we are going to continue to scale our programs as much as we can. We want to make them more efficient and use our funds wisely. We want to support policies that are being adopted locally and work closely with the integrated decarb roadmap that Zoe was talking about to develop long-term targets, priorities, and metrics. You can always learn about programs by talking to Justin, myself, or anyone on the programs team. But I wanted to also draw your attention to the fact that we do have a quarterly programs report in the board packet. So that always has the latest information on programs, and you can visit our eHub to learn more. Thank you, and happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. Thanks for those updates of programs. Questions, comments? Director Makachek.
Thank you for the presentation. On the slide, and I can't see the slide numbers on my screen, but it was the one with the metrics on there.
Yeah.
Those are cumulative numbers. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And then there's a number in orange under the larger numbers that represents the change from last year.
That one.
Top 6 milestones, Andrea. The title of the slide is Top 6 Milestones. I think it's 2 slides back. 1 slide back, maybe. Yeah, there you go.
So the numbers on the top row, the large numbers, those are the
cumulative.
Cumulative.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Vice Chair Meadows.
Thank you. And if you stay on the same slide, well, we don't really need the slide for my question, but the contractors that are trained, do they exhibit something that says SVCE certified, SVCE trained? I mean, does that training get reflected in their public face to their potential customers?
They can exhibit that, I guess, if they want to. We also have a tool. We have a tool that customers can connect to contractors through, and that tool actually shows a little SVCE logo next to the contractor's name if they are trained through our program. And I think most contractors who are trained are also very aware of our rebate programs, so they're probably likely mentioning both the rebate and the fact that they're trained.
Right. Well, I wonder if it wouldn't make sense if we update the terms of the participation. I don't know how much, if we cover the cost of all the training and all that stuff, but if part of what they give back to us, depending on how much do we cover all the training or?
Yeah, so it's actually a 5-hour online training, and
Okay.
we actually pay them to take the training.
Right, okay. So it's like anytime you participate in an event now, just to sign up for it, they'll say, and by signing up for it, you consent to give your permission for us to use your picture.
Mhm.
A similar thing could be is if you sign up to take this, then you will include in your website or other customer promotional materials that you are, again, I don't know what the right wording is, but SVCE certified. That then closes the loop, because otherwise we're potentially training people who could really be helping us spread the word. So if we're not doing that, maybe we can look into that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Director Showalter.
Yeah, just a quick one. I wanted to know how somebody who could use the direct pay program, which is income qualified, finds out that they're eligible for it.
So they would go to our website, or how are you asking how they would learn about the program?
Yeah, I mean, how do most people find out that they're qualified and come to it?
So how they would learn about the program would be through our marketing. We have some ways to market specifically to income qualified customers. I may have to call on Pam to talk about that. But once they are interested in the program and they fill out our initial application form, there's a way for them to indicate that they might be income qualified. And then typically, if they're enrolled in other income qualified programs, they would be eligible for ours.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I mean, for instance, the CS, the Community Services Agency, or areas like that, groups like that, suggest this for people who come in. And I just wondered if that was a way they learned about it, or is it really directly from us?
It's pretty new. It's a pretty new program, so I don't know that we have networked to community service agencies yet to promote this program, but I wonder.
I'm happy. Here.
Oh, there you
I heard my name.
Alright.
Hi there. Yeah, so we actually issued a solicitation to find a community-based organization partner to specifically support reaching this audience. We understand that we are not necessarily, excuse me, the best messenger because we are still relatively new in developing these relationships in the community. So we have a lot of great connections to community services agencies, for example, through a lot of the affordability outreach work we've done. But specifically, we ended up contracting with a group called Breathe California that really has a lot of programs. They're a lung health organization, so actually the connection with the improved air quality benefits of electrification is actually, they're really well suited, and they've been doing a lot of EV rebate programs specifically for income qualified audiences for other organizations, including PG&E. So we're working with them, and this, like Nupur said, this program fairly recently has opened up broadly, and so we are pushing it out now. And so this work will continue to try to find those right customers. And because we don't have income data on customers, we just have like our best ways to try to reach them through partner organizations and other means.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Director Martinez Beltran.
Thank you. What I wanted to ask, with the cities and public workplaces where we're doing the programs, rebates, there's a maintenance contract in there. Is that with the cities, all public facilities and all workplaces that get that rebate?
Are you talking about you're talking about the EV charging
Yes.
rebates?
Yes.
So yes, we do have a maintenance, we do require that anybody getting our incentive to install EV charging has to have a 3-year O&M agreement to maintain those chargers.
Okay, and then after the 3 years?
Honestly, we don't have the ability to follow up with every entity.
Right.
So after the 3 years, I guess it's up to them
phase
to, yeah.
Okay, okay. Just thinking about the operations and maintenance, maybe.
Yeah.
There was something we could do there. And then you talked about seasonal. This goes along with my political and hopefully, taking advantage of this gas crisis. But how will that seasonal work? Is it like, your HV, your water heater, that's going to be less of a rebate during a certain time or more of a rebate to try and get you to convert before the winter comes? And then same with the spring, are we doing something that's at a higher level before that season comes, or how are you thinking that would work?
Yeah, so the seasonal bonuses are actually for water heaters, not for HVAC.
Okay.
So hot water is a little less subject to this season. But I called them seasonal just because we have a window in the spring and a window in the fall when we're going to be offering those. So for 2 months in the spring, I think it's May 1 through the end of June, and then another 2 or 3 month window in the fall, we will offer an extra $500 for customers who reserve their rebate. And so if you reserve during that time, you would get a $3,000 rebate from SVCE. If you reserve outside that window, you would get $2,500 rebate from SVCE.
Okay, excellent. And you're saying that's only for that one. We don't offer that on other.
No, we're not. We're trying it out this time. And actually,
Okay.
we're syncing with Peninsula Clean Energy and San Jose Clean Energy because most of the time customers are learning about these rebates from the contractor. And so if we sync up the timing for this bonus across our 3 service territories, we think there'll be less confusion around the contractors, and the contractors will just be able to pitch that as, hey, wherever I work, I'm going to tell my customer $500 extra during
Right.
this window.
Okay, great. And then the last thing is, I think, more of a comment with question at the end. I'm thrilled to see Bayren Ease in here. So I'm also on board of ABAG, and I asked Bayren specifically to reach out to SVCE and other clean energy groups to see how we could layer some of those, because I did have somebody in Morning Hill who was interested in layering, and it looks like that's happening. You talked about, well, the presentation talked about there was layering of city rebates with other organizations, or with cities and SVCE layering. Are you including other organizations such as Bayren and others in that as well?
So the city rebates that are being offered are for single-family homes, and those are from city-specific funding. So every city has a different amount of funding that they're giving us, and they're adding a different amount on top of SVCE's rebate. And the Bayren layering is, I think is it for multifamily homes? I'm going to have to call on Leanna here.
They do include single family also.
Okay, so that is through our direct install program.
Hi, good evening, Directors. Leanna Huynh. I am the program manager for our single family and multifamily direct install programs. And so Bayren Ease is a direct install program for moderate income customers. And so it primarily focuses on efficiency. And so because they have their own set of contractors that do this type of work, the easiest way for us to layer is to coordinate with the program. So once they're done with the electrification upgrades, we can refer them back to Bayren to complete the efficiency and vice versa.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I had several questions. First, I just want to say it's great to have the stories. I think stories help sell the programs as well as,
Mhm.
let's say, humanize what we're trying to do. And I think that connects to people a lot more than just, here's what program it is. So thank you for that. You talked a little bit about SVCE's load management strategies allowed that resident to install heat pump water heater without upsizing the panel. When we talk about load management, is it automated? So it's like, okay, in this case, best practices don't, don't charge your EV at a certain hour, or, it's like, here's, it's changing behaviors, I'm assuming, in order to maintain that the existing load is sufficient with the current panel. Is that it? Or do we actually lead the resident to automation, meaning, oh, it's like, this is the best, this is how your heat pump or your heat pump water heater should be working. This is the configuration for your EV charging automation to make sure that you're not basically conflicting. Are we automating the household, or are we just educating the resident?
So I think there's maybe three things. So some of it might be education. Some of it could be that we have switching appliances that we're putting in. So when one appliance turns on, another one does not turn on, so you're not overloading your circuit. And then a third is also the way load calculations are done. So traditionally, load calculations have taken the load of every electric appliance and just stacked it all up and added it up. And of course, that exceeds the panel capacity. But there are there's revised guidance from the state on how those load calculations can be done for fully electric homes that don't just involve adding everything up. Our team is looking into some calculators and making those available for our contractors to use. So there's a standardized process for how to do that. And we're running into fewer scenarios where people are just adding everything up. So I can't speak to that specific customer's story and what was used in that situation, but I think in general, these are the types of things that we are trying to do.
Understood. And to me, it's more from my education as well, as we've led a specific residence to a solution to some degree. If 5 years down the road, a new owner comes in, they might not understand the effects. And it's more how, it's like how that education's passed from one owner to the next. It's like, oh, you need to have a smart appliance, or it's like you need to make sure that you're not charging your EV the same time your water pump is on and your HVAC is on. And it's like that sort of thing. So I'm just was trying to get a better idea on how much we're trying to automate it, and how that's just passed on as knowledge from owner to owner, or renter to renter is the secondary thing. The electric advisor, 2,900 customers, far exceeding what our plans were, is fantastic. First, is this a no wrong door solution? Meaning, is it only meeting the residents in the territory, in the SVCE territory, or is it anyone who gets onto the website and asks for assistance?
So anybody can call or use the service. Usually the advisor will make an attempt to try and figure out if they are an SVCE customer. In cases where they're not an SVCE customer, they may provide them with some basic guidance, like especially if they're asking about programs and they live in San Jose, but they're not our customer, then they would be able to direct them to San Jose's programs. So it isn't exclusive from the get-go, but usually the deeper service is reserved for SVCE customers.
I appreciate that. And so it would be good on a yearly basis, as this report comes back to us, for programs like that, getting a better breakdown of what cities. So it's like, okay, 2,900 interactions. What's the breakdown per city? What's the breakdown outside of our territory? Just to try to get a better feel for, and our cities have a large variance in population. But for the cities that we're seeing that uptake, is it communication from SVCE, communication from the city? Is it the income levels of the residents in that city? There's lots of other factors that play in.
Yeah.
But getting a better feel for what the uptake is on per city basis, per district, I think has value also, because it's like, oh, we're seeing a lot of them in Los Altos, let's say. And did Los Altos do something in their quarterly newsletter? Is there something that we can actually, point to and then duplicate across the service district would be interesting. It's supplemental at this point, but I do think that would be useful information from a board standpoint.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Just to clarify, you don't want us to wait a year to report that. You want that information brought back to the
It
board?
would be nice.
No, that's fine.
I'm not saying we have to have that information, it's like for 2025. That being said, if you start laying out that process, and if you have that update, and then trying to, I think it's educational for each of our cities to say, oh, it's like, here's our population, here's how many residents we actually had take part in program X, program Y, and, and just for when I say no wrong door, it's like, if we're doing well, we're getting people from San Jose, from Santa Clara, from others, Palo Alto, that are accessing our program because they've heard, this is where I get the information that helps me electrify my home. And that's not a bad thing. We push them back to conceivably their power agency, but it's just more information for us. And then, as I think staff breaks down the program into that level, are there like upticks in certain cities that what can we figure out what the solution, or why it was more successful in a specific city? Because, not that we have a magic wand of like, oh yes, it was exactly this, but it might help us be more successful across the region.
Okay, we'll agendize that for a future meeting and before the year, for sure. Just with one caveat that there are no winners and losers. It's not a competition. Because I know this board can be really competitive.
But it would be nice if all of our cities are fully successful. So that's all I'm looking for. And I'm not saying, it could be an information only item. It all depends on what their agenda is for the rest of the year. But I do think that that's useful data.
Okay.
Not to create more work for you. That was all of my questions. Director Makachek, you had another comment?
Oh, I was going to say that I think some healthy competition is a good thing, not a bad thing. And I'll always remember the slides that Zoe was putting up on who was getting the reach codes, what was their status, and, I think that was healthy and positive. So I'm with you there.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, Director?
Thank you, Chair. This is more of a practical question that I'm trying to pose. See, so I've been looking to qualify for our programs. I believe that we have these programs to help out on our vision to fully decarbonize, and in order for us to achieve that, the more that we encourage people to electrify their homes, their cars, would serve better the purpose, right? My practical question is the qualification. The qualification, as we have, most of the qualification are income-based, and looking at our own website, the qualifications are two prongs. One is those that qualify for CARE and FERA, and the other one is the income qualified program enrollment. Both of these qualifications are income-based. And if you look at, again, on our table, we put we indicated from one household to 8 household, ranging from 111,000 to an 8 household, 210,000 to qualify. My question is how much of this qualification prohibits people with higher income that are willing to electrify their homes, for example, few member household in a home, but their income are too much. What would be the gauge and reason why we are imposing income-based qualification when our goal is to get as much as we can consumers and electrify their homes, and thus we hasten our vision of decarbonization. I must admit, right, I have some electric cars, but I haven't electrified my home. As one of the presenters here said a while ago, it's an upfront fees base in buying an electric car. So for people who does not qualify based on income, I think their thinking is, would it be worth it if I electrify my home, knowing that I will contribute to the good cause of decarbonization, but if I do that, I will spend, and I'm not sure if what I will spend will be commensurate to what I will save because I electrify my home. So bottom line of my comment and question is, why are we basing qualification of our programs to decarbonize based on income? I'll tell you, Santa Clara County's median income is 195,000. US is 164. If you look at our table, most of those median income who probably have homes, single-family homes, or has bought homes are more than median income. So are we disqualifying those new homeowners who just bought their houses, as old as they are, the houses, right? But it's as expensive. And in order for them to buy these non-electrified houses, they have to be above a certain income that is very, very non-comparative to the qualifications that we offer.
Okay, so for like I said on one of our slides, only 28 million out of that $138 million is exclusively for income qualified. So the bulk of our funds are still available through programs for market rate customers who don't meet the income qualifications. And we do use the county's income qualifications as we've adopted those same gradations that you just talked about for our programs. So what we've seen to date is that some of the early adopters have tended to be customers who wouldn't meet our income qualifications. And that means that folks who do have the ability to electrify within their income are sometimes taking steps to already do that. So the income qualified programs, a lot of those have emerged at SVCE in the last year and a half to 2 years. And we added those specifically because we recognized that the income qualified portion of our community would not be able to electrify just because the upfront cost of electrification is so much. And so that's why we've added those programs and dedicated those dollars exclusively for those customers. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does, but I was thinking for a long time, there is 3 kinds of consumers, right? One is those that are within the income qualification. 2 are the very rich that you said that can afford it. And the second one is consumers who fall into the cracks. Hardworking people, just barely making enough or some extra, and are not qualified with our programs. So are we disincentivizing them because they work so hard?
So
right.
I think it would be
Okay.
useful to pull up the slide at the glance slide, I think the second or third page of the presentation. Because that shows, I think, what Nupur is saying, this, it's 138 million, of which only 28 million are dedicated to basically income qualified customers. So the rest of our programs, the electrification all the different programs are open to all customers. Only a certain percentage of these program funds are dedicated to lower income.
And I'll just add that I think you're trying to get at who the customers that fall in maybe in the middle that don't qualify for the income qualified programs and maybe aren't high income enough to be able to easily afford to electrify. For those moderate income customers, we do have a program right now. It's a pilot. It's called Zero Interest Financing, and it was specifically designed to support those types of customers. So rather than just giving them a fully no cost install, we are giving them a 10-year zero interest loan. And they pay that back through the SVCE bill. But the idea is that their savings would be offset by the charge that they pay back. So in essence, their monthly bill is not going to change. And so we are testing that financing program out. There are other CCAs that are also testing out different flavors of financing programs. And I think the state is also looking into some financing opportunities specifically for that group that would fall between those early adopter, high income people and the lower income people.
All right, I am just puzzled with the distinction. If the common goal is, to decarbonize, I believe opening it all in a flat form, non-distinguishing of any qualification, would serve our purpose. But I differ. I believe I know that there are metrics to that, and it's well thought. It's just a thought, as I said in the beginning. It's a practical question.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
And I think sitting on this board for several years now, there are multiple board members that really were pushing to make sure that those, especially at the lowest income levels, could take part in the value of decarbonization, where even more so, and I understand you're kind of talking about the middle income, but definitely our board members were saying, here's a segment that will never decarbonize unless they have assistance. And I appreciate the zero interest loans and things of that nature. It's like, thanks to staff for coming up ways to try to meet, the rebates, the income levels, trying to meet all the needs of residents in our service area.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Director Martinez Beltran.
Thank you. I'm just curious on that note, do we reach out? Do we try and identify moderate income, low income and reach out to them? Or is it that when they, if they have an interest, whether they see it in the bill or they get directed here by a contractor or something goes out and they need to replace it? But do we reach out to try and identify who they are and connect them with that program?
Yes, so sometimes we will use our knowledge of the CareFair customers to reach out to them with specific programs. But as Pam said, we don't have individual income information that's highly accurate every time. Sometimes we have that data at the parcel level or the census tract level. And so we might be able to do some strategic geographic marketing in those areas to promote programs to folks in certain zip codes, for example, and make sure that we're connecting them with the income qualified program. But it's not 100%, like super specific.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Director Hines.
Yeah, just one comment along that. We had that exact same discussion in the Valley, Santa Clara Valley water discussion today. And what we talked about doing was trying to measure it to the known quantity of individuals that are on Social Security Social Security income alone or SNAP. That should be a known quantity of people to be able to measure it and direct it against. So,
Thank you. I see no other comments or questions from directors. I'll go ahead and open up public comment. Is there anyone in the room or remote wishing to speak on this item?
None in the room. We do have one remote. Bruce Carney, whenever you are ready.
Hello, thank you. I wanted to particularly applaud the synchronization between SVCE, San Jose Clean Energy, and PCE with the contractors on potential rebates. I think that's wonderful to decomplicate the environment that the contractors work in. I also wanted to note that SVCE does something quite useful, which is to provide GHG emissions data every year to all of the cities that are part of its service territory. And in comparing 2019, the pre-pandemic year, to 2024, the most recent year for which data is available, only 5 of the jurisdictions showed a decrease in GHG emissions. The county of Santa Clara by far led all the other jurisdictions, followed by Los Altos Hills, Gilroy, Saratoga, and then Campbell. So the other jurisdictions did not reduce their GHG emissions at all in the most recent 5 years for which data is available. And I would encourage the cities of Cupertino, Morgan Hill, Gilroy, Los Gatos, Saratoga, Los Altos Hills, and Monte Sereno, 2 of which actually did decrease their emissions, to join the 4 cities that have decided to stack rebates on heat pumps with SVCE. So I'm encouraging those 7 jurisdictions to join Milpitas, Mountain View, and Saratoga, Mountain View, Milpitas, Sunnyvale, and Los Altos, who provide rebates stacked on SVCEs for heat pumps. Encourage your community members to invest in these new technologies. And particularly if you do it with a time limitation. Say this is only a 2026 deal. Put it in your budget for FY 26-27 and see what you can create. And then lastly, I would like to say that the names have been changed to protect the innocent for Wade, Lisa, Petra, and Bruce. And I'm Bruce, and my name wasn't changed. So maybe you could change that slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
No additional comments, Chair.
Okay, I'll go ahead and close public comment. Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you for all the work that you and staff are doing on the different programs and moving, the decarbonization needle for our communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll move on to anything. I'll move on to board member announcements and direction on future agenda items. Any announcements? Any comments? I see none. Oh, Director Makachek.
I'll make a comment that this is a difficult time with the federal administration, and it's really hard to be excited with not so upbeat messages from the administration. And I just want to commend the whole SVCE team, because it's tough right now, and we see that. So all the work that everyone's doing, you may not think it's appreciated, but it really is. And I think we're in a really difficult time. So I just wanted to commend you for that.
Thank you, and I'll second that. Any other comments? Seeing none, we will adjourn the meeting at 8:54 p.m. Thank you all. Have a good evening.